trust China. We need independence.
Yeah. And what's your message to? Have you seen Donald Trump? Do you think he should step in?
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is oh.
All right. First off, let me just say there's nothing racist about that joke right there. Joseph right here is Chinese and he laughed. And if one Chinese person says it's not racist, then obviously that goes for all Chinese people. Hello, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. Oh, and Joseph actually lived in China. So he's not just Chinese, like he eats Chinese food. He actually lived in China. Say something in Chinese, quick. 你好. I'm not going to say the rest of that, but he said, thank you for watching and the live streaming and all that stuff. Actually, today is a pre-record, although it is April 10th. We're recording this on April 9th because, as I mentioned yesterday, I am right now, it's probably happening literally right now if you're watching this at 11 a.m. Eastern. I have a giant needle in my knee. I am getting stem cells right now. I'm doing it by the needle and I'm doing it intravenously. I'm going to be in a hyperbaric chamber and a whole bunch more. I'm bringing the entire team to Naples. We're going to make a film about it to talk about alternative ways of healing. So very excited about that. So anyway, that is why we are pre-recording the show today. So there will be no pre-game show. We've got a RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A, and we're just going to catch up on a bunch of the craziness and some of the usual characters that we talk about, from Stephen A. Smith to AOC and Bernie. And we've got a bit of Trump from the NRCC dinner, which I wanted to get to yesterday. And then just more of some good stuff that's happening because, yes, there's some tariff headaches, which I've been telling you are just a temporary blip to getting to some good stuff on the other side. But there's some other good things happening, and it's worth mentioning. Let's jump in with my buddy Stephen A. Smith, who just signed a $100 million deal over at ESPN, but also has a podcast, little podcaster too. And there's been all of these, he keeps texting them to me. There've been all of these stories about how maybe he is going to run for president as a Democrat in 28 because the bench is so thin, and, you know, he's a moderate who likes to talk to both sides, and he does not like the crazies on the left. Here he is on his show earlier in the week calling out AOC and Bernie.
See, when I think about the Republicans, I think the Republicans are asking us, particularly Trump, trust me. And by the way, he's in a position to do it because he won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College vote. He won every swing state. He won both houses of Congress. He's got a majority 6-3 in the Supreme Court. I mean, damn. Americans didn't just give it to him. He took it because he recognized what the left wasn't doing. They were preoccupied with nonsense. You want to ask why Stephen A. Smith felt the need to speak up at the NAB conference? Let me ask y'all this question. We supposed to leave it to Bernie Sanders and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? We're supposed to leave it with individuals that will tell you that it's perfectly okay to tax 70% of your money? Not that they gave out that number. I'm just speculating because of how socialistic they are in their thinking. We're supposed to say that that's okay. Y'all okay with that? You okay with going to work and making $100 and walking home with 30? You sure about that? Are you cool with it? Just tell me. Because these are the kind of questions that we have to ask ourselves. That is why I spoke up.
That's why he spoke up, and that's why he's polling like in the top 3 if you look at early polling for the Democrats, as crazy as that sounds. And I don't think he particularly wants to run for office or anything else. He's got a pretty good life. He, in his old days, used to just talk politics, or just talk sports, but then because sports became so political, now he does a little bit of both. But what they have done is taken a guy like him who would have just been a moderate Democrat for all of these years, and they've pinned him against a bunch of crazy people who do want to tax at 70%, who Bernie just said this week he wants to raise the minimum wage to $17. Okay, Bernie, well, if you're just going to artificially pick numbers to be a nice guy, take someone else's money and give it to someone else in the name of being nice, why not 27? Why not 37? Why not 67? Like, come on, dude, it's someone else's money. Why not be more generous with it? But that's what they are with everything. When it comes to their own lives, again, I said it yesterday, Bernie used to rail against millionaires, then he became a millionaire, and now he rails against billionaires. And this is a gem here from the New York Post. AOC flies first class to Bernie Sanders' Fight Oligarchy rally as critics pan lefty politician for battling inequality one mimosa at a time. And there she is in her very, very cushy first class seat. I will tell you this, I fly first class. I pay for it myself. It's nice. Sometimes when I bring my employees, they sit back, coach, and I give them a little piece of the filet. I say you can share one little piece of the filet mignon, and I send it back there. Okay? I do. And they share it. And what did you say to me last time, Connor? It was moist and succulent. That's what he said. They don't even get water back there. But the point is, I pay for it, and I'm a capitalist. She is a LARPing socialist who has an awful lot of money, and she goes to rallies while flying in first class saying that she's one of the people. And thankfully, the people are not buying it. Her mentor, Bernie Sanders, who's become just a rambling, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've been doing Bernie a lot, and people keep telling me it's starting to also sound like Scooby-Doo now. Anyway, here's Bernie, and look at this this is an impressive, awe-inspiring crowd. Like, if you're out there and you're a socialist and you want your $17 minimum wage and you'll be replaced by an iPad and, you know, all of the stuff that Bernie's been ushering in, and he doesn't know the difference between equality and equity and everything else. Like, you get out there and you rally with these people, because this is an inspirational Bernie Sanders rally. Man, I really wish we could have rolled right into a Blue Chew ad from that. That's a bunch of people that cannot get a boner. That's how I'm looking at the world these days. You can either get a boner or you can't get a boner. And if you can't get a boner, you're one of them. On our side, we've got Donald Trump, and he is reordering the world right now. He is doing exactly what he said he was going to do just months ago, and it's the same thing that he was saying someone else should do 40 years ago before he was a politician. He spoke at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner, and here he is calling out Lady Eyelashes herself.
The Democrats have taken a lot of beatings. They have lost their confidence. They've gone crazy. They've gone crazy. How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? Is that real? Are they serious about that? That's their new star? If that's their new star, they're in serious trouble. I mean, this is Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man.
He didn't even have a joke there. I just thought it was funny. Like, he doesn't even know who she is, probably. He probably doesn't even know her first name, but he sees the videos every now and again. And there's just this crazy lady who talks like this and waves her head around, and she wants people to pick her cotton and boo. But while Trump is doing things like that, where he's being fun at these dinners and he's changing the world and working hard and everything else, he's just doing good stuff. Check this out from NBC News. Trump signs executive order to boost U.S. coal industry, in part to fuel artificial intelligence. So that's what he's doing right now, right? Like, the AI war is coming one way or another, and we better have the resources, the natural resources to deal with it. We better be able to build chips. We better be able to build data centers and everything else. So he's looking at the future and trying to set us up properly. And by the way, his new guy over at the EPA, Lee Zeldin from New York, who almost became governor of New York, and that would have changed things in New York pretty significantly, but he didn't, and now he's running the EPA. He tweeted this: under President Trump, we will unleash energy dominance. Today's executive order will empower American energy, including beautiful, clean coal, to drive down costs, increase domestic supply, and improve our grid security as we pioneer the path to become the AI capital of the world. Guys, we are going to need all of these resources. The future world is going to look very different. You know my feeling about all these sci-fi movies, whether we're talking Matrix or Terminator or even Star Wars prequels as it pertains to power. Like, we are going to enter a future that is going to look very, very different than the present that we have right now. And unless we have the proper resources, the proper infrastructure, logistics, all of those things, it is not going to go well. So these guys are all in on that, on top of the fact that they're also all in on Bitcoin, and we're going to have a strategic reserve there, et cetera, et cetera. And at the same time, what is Trump trying to do through these tariff deals? Well, make sure that we can produce things here again so that the American worker can go to work and feel that his job is secure and that we're not outsourcing everything to other countries. Here's Trump on that.
Today, we're taking historic action to help American workers, miners, families, and consumers. We're ending Joe Biden's war on beautiful, clean coal once and for all. And it wasn't just Biden, it was Obama, and there were others. But we're doing the exact opposite. And all those plants that have been closed are going to be opened. If they're modern enough, or they'll be ripped down and brand new ones will be built. We're going to put the miners back to work, and I said I was going to do this, and I've said it loud and clear, and it's time to do it.
You know, just the optics of that, you know, they'll tell you Trump is the elitist and he's the fascist and he's the wannabe Hitler and blah, blah, blah. And he's the billionaire and he doesn't care about these people and they just want tax breaks. And blah. It's like having him stand there with the coal workers behind him, talking about how they're going to upgrade the facilities. And if things can't be upgraded, we'll build you new ones. And we're going to make sure that we're energy independent and all of these things. Like, remember back to COVID when we literally had to get masks and all of the other stuff from China. So imagine if we actually started doing it, protected our borders, made sure our energy infrastructure was proper, made sure that we were able to go into this AI revolution, not dependent on other nations, made sure we could manufacture things here again. Like we're literally doing it right now. And all of that is what will lead us to the golden age. Let's talk about Rumble Premium for a minute. And then we've got more good stuff on the other side. Free speech is under attack, but Rumble refuses to back down. We've always believed in empowering voices no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollars, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their backs, claiming Rumble had a right-wing culture. But we're not here to fit a mold, we're here to defend free expression. To strengthen this mission, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. You'll find exclusive content from creators like Russell Brand, Dr. Disrespect, Timcast, and the Mug Club with Crowder. It's more than a subscription, it's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a limited time, you can get $10 off an annual plan using promo code Rubin. Visit rumble.com/premium/Rubin and claim your discount today. Together, we can turn the tide. Whether you join Rumble Premium or simply keep watching, your support helps keep free speech alive. So, of course, the big thing that's been going on right now is the tariff war. And there is a war brewing. It is a trade war. It is a brewing. A lot of countries are coming around. I think Scott Bessent said just in the last 2-3 days, 50 to 70 countries are already willing to negotiate. We're in a bit of a sort of blinking moment with China where we're both raising on each other and we'll see what happens. But here's Trump talking about how other countries are coming around and that the critics probably just don't like America very much.
Our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, you know, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, you know, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted. But the shrill voices that you're hearing this week about tariffs are the same scoundrels and frauds who never thought twice about when the United States lost 90,000 factories and plants. Think of that, 90,000. How do you do 90? If you had a map, a big map the size of that wall, and you had a pin for each factory, you wouldn't have enough room. You think of it, 90,000 factories since NAFTA.
So that's it. That's exactly where we thought we were going to be if we got into this tariff situation, that countries would be coming around and begging to get in. And we know that that's happening with certain countries that are going to do the 0 for 0 or just completely change the deals altogether so that they're not so lopsided in their favor and always screwing us. And that, yeah, he's right. There were a whole bunch of political leaders and industry leaders and everything else who for years and years let our 90,000 factories, I don't know how many years he's talking about over, but like 90,000 factories, factor in all the jobs that were there, all the infrastructure that puts in a city. I mean, there were cities that probably had one factory and that's basically where everyone worked, right? And then the restaurants that were there and the hotels that were there and everything else that happens there. And then, I mean, we know this throughout Middle America. Then the factory goes down and then they become basically ghost cities. So we're going to fix some of that stuff. And by the way, I'm not sitting here telling you the most Pollyannish version of it, that it's going to be super easy, because a lot of these jobs, people working in mines, like some of that's going to be done by AI and robots and everything else. So it's not as simple as just, okay, we're going to bring these jobs back and magically have people doing these things. There's a lot of things we're going to have to deal with. But either way, dealing with the trade asymmetry first is what you've got to do. And he's dealing with that maturely. And speaking of things he's dealing with maturely, he's dealing with the Middle East maturely, that you do something called peace through strength. And since he became president, obviously, a whole bunch of hostages have come out from the Gaza tunnels. Here's one of the hostage survivors with his family thanking Trump for saving him and 33 others.
President Trump, you saved my life. You saved the life of 33 hostages that because of your efforts and your setting the hostage crisis at the high priority of what you are doing among all of the enormous issues and things that you're dealing with since you came into your position as President of the United States. You set the hostage crisis at the highest priority. You got 33 of us home alive. We all owe our lives to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that was a man that for about 500 days was living underneath Gaza, barely being fed, barely seeing sunlight, being abused, et cetera, et cetera. 33 of them are back. It sounds like there are probably 21 to 24 living hostages still, including one American. And do you get them back by just being nice to the people that committed the atrocities, or do you get them back by threatening them? In some sense, it's the same thing as the tariff thing. People will be bad as long as you allow them to be bad. And then when you say you can't be bad anymore, people do come around. Speaking of bad people, I really wanted to show this video. This is insane. So this is over the last couple of days, these protests are back, right? And we know that the BLM protests, it was once Antifa, then it was BLM, then it morphs into COVID protests, then it morphs into now these Hamas protests. But now they've taken over New York City. The New York City police officers do absolutely nothing. It shuts down the streets. It shuts down commerce. They're calling for genocide, all of these things. And here is someone who just could not take it anymore, who's probably, who knows? This person might be a Democrat. You just don't know. I suspect we'll find out. But here's someone who could not take it anymore, having these people, just creating all of this chaos and stopping them from getting in their cars and stopping them from having a peaceful afternoon and everything else. They decided to throw garbage and poop onto the Hamas people, and they were not thrilled with it. All right, so some of that was garbage. Apparently, some of it was dog poop. There might have even been some human feces in there. It's unclear. I suspect we'll find out a little bit more. So I'm going to do the non-joking version of this. Let's try the straight-up version of it for a second. Okay, these people take over the streets. We know that. They don't have permits, and they take over the streets. Ambulances can't get through. People can't go to work. If you're at a restaurant, maybe the worker can't get to the restaurant, or you can't get there, or it's just not the most pleasant thing for your customers to come in and try to sit in a quiet cafe while these Hamas people are going by. So they are ripping up the fabric of New York City and any of these other cities. And this has been going on for over a year. These people don't respect any norm, but they expect you to respect their new norms. So now try to imagine you're just some random person. Doesn't matter if you're Jewish, doesn't matter if you care about Israel or anything else. You're just some random person who lives in New York City. And every weekend, while you're trying to watch TV or read a book or just sit there with your kids or take your kids to the park or whatever it might be, you can't do any of those things because it's too loud to read TV or to read a book or watch the TV. And you can't take your kids to the park because you don't want them to see that chaos or anything else. And you know that the police aren't going to do anything because they haven't done anything in a year and a half. And also that you can't visit your cousin who lives 5 blocks down because you don't want to walk through that thing and everything else. At what point do you think throwing shit out the window might be justified? Right? At what point, if your city, let's put aside the Hamas people for a second. They're just doing what they can get away with. Again, it's exactly like the tariff people. In some sense, you can't be angry at them. They're just doing what they can get away with, and they can get away with an awful lot. So every country that was screwing us, they probably were like, boy, we really can keep screwing America. Let's keep doing it. The Hamas people, they're out in the streets. Oh, we can take over the streets. Let's keep doing it. We can stop people and bang on their cars and blah, blah. Let's keep doing it. But now if you're the good law-abiding citizen who just wants to get on by, and your system has failed you because the mayor, Eric Adams, who seems to be having his like slow red pilling, but he doesn't do jack shit about this, and the police have not been given any of the instructions to do anything proper. At what point do you just throw some shit out the window just so that they move on? So I have no doubt they're going to try to come after this guy and everything else. And if I can help with a legal fund, I probably would. I don't like the idea of throwing shit out the window, but if this is what it's come to be able to survive in that city, like there is an exchange that you have with your neighbor, with your co-citizen, that their rights don't impede on your rights. And if they are going to abuse the system and the system won't do anything to protect you, eventually you have to push back. Hopefully not with violence, right? Violence is illegal, whichever way it's going. But at some point you just push, like that guy did not wake up that morning like, I'm going to throw shit on a bunch of Hamas people this morning. But they pushed him there. And we better start thinking about that, especially if you live in blue states and blue cities. Let's jump a little bit, although I would say it's ancillarily connected because we have no idea how many of these masked LARPing jihadis are actual legal immigrants or legal citizens of the United States. This video was going crazy viral over the weekend. This is Elon Musk talking about mass migration and how it simply will destroy countries if we don't figure out what to do with it.
Yes. The mass immigration is insane. And will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. That country will simply cease to exist. At the end of the day, it is a numbers game, a numbers situation. If there are 8 billion people in the world, and let's say you're a country of, 50 million, 60 million, or for a medium-sized country, but even for a country like the United States, which is 350 million, given that there are 8 billion people in the world, it only takes a few percent of the rest of the world to move to the country to where it is no longer that country. A country is not its geography. A country is its people. This is a fundamental concept that is truly obvious.
That's a good line. And maybe we should all use that a little bit more. A country is not its geography, it's its people. Yes, we have borders. Now, we haven't protected those borders particularly well. We're in the midst of fixing that right now. But the country is the people. But I think you can go beyond that. The country is the culture, right? If you have people that respect the laws of the land, that are proud of their country, that look at their neighbor and don't want to shout them down because they believe this or that, or respect the laws so that people are able to travel down the street and do commerce freely and all those things, then you can have a flourishing country. And yet you can have your own religions and you can have your own traditions and your own foods and think different things and all of those things. And some elections will go your way and some won't. But in a world of 8 billion people with a country of 350 million, if you just let a teeny tiny percentage of people in who really hate you, and then they get funded by NGOs to be out there every weekend trying to destroy your country and upend all of the goodness and make your colleges turn into factories of propaganda and everything else, you won't have a country. And as I've said many times, and the audience all over Europe always responds to it, it's like America is doing right now what Europe should have done 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. We're trying to protect our borders properly. We're trying to get rid of the bad guys. And if you don't, then one day all of the good people will be throwing shit out into the street, and there will be nobody to clean it up because there will be nobody out on the streets anymore because it will be so violent and overtaken and dystopian and everything else. Speaking of dystopian, here's just a random anti-Trump lunatic talking about how he deserves to die, which you would think would be beyond the pale, except, well,
How do you feel about Donald Trump?
I think that he deserves to die.
You should what?
Die.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
So who do you want to run America?
The people, preferably.
You want the people to run America?
Like a democracy should be, yes.
Do you feel like the people voted for him?
I think the people were fooled.
Oh, I didn't get what I want. I want the people to run. And if the people don't vote my way, they were fooled. He should die. It's another one who can't get a boner. It's just there's something there. I just know there's something there. Yes, there is a growing movement amongst particularly young lefties who want to use violence for political means. They are doing it with Tesla, and you just know one of these days, one of these trans Hamas people is going to strap on a suicide bomb. And I'm only saying these things because we better just start thinking about it. We better start thinking, what will our response be? And what is our threshold of tolerance for all of this lunacy, right? Because otherwise they will do exactly what they did to the liberals, to the rest of us. What did the progressives and the wackadoodle lefties do to the progressives? They saw, oh, progressives are tolerant, and that's how we're going to get in. And look, they got in, they destroyed the Democrat Party, and there's basically just a series of radicals. But they could do the same thing to us if we just decide to keep tolerance of intolerance and crazy batshit ideas at the top of the hierarchy. So I don't think we should do that. Guys, let's talk about fast-growing trees, and then we'll go to a community Q&A on the other side. Spring is here, and if you've been thinking about transforming the yard, now's the time to do it. So let me tell you about Fast-Growing Trees. They're the largest online nursery in the United States with over 2 million happy customers. What makes Fast-Growing Trees stand out is how easy they make the whole process. Whether you have a big backyard, a tiny patch of land, or even no yard at all, they've got something for you. They have over 6,000 options, all backed by their Alive and Thrive guarantee, so your plants arrive happy, healthy, and ready to grow. And if you're like me and don't exactly have a green thumb, don't worry. They've got plant experts on call to walk you through the whole process. Right now, they've got a huge spring deal, up to half off select plants. And as a listener, you get an extra 15% off your first purchase when you use the code Rubin at checkout. That's fastgrowingtrees.com, code Rubin. Now's the perfect time to plant. Don't wait until it's too hot or too late. Go save today. All right, RubinReport.locals.com, community Q&A, here we go. Jeremy says, I have a Weber kettle grill and a Pit Boss pellet grill. What other cuts of meat do you like smoking besides a Wagyu tomahawk, and which grill would you suggest using? Okay, so, we put up this video of me using my Big Green Egg and smoking the perfect Wagyu tomahawk. Now, first off, I don't always make a Wagyu tomahawk. They're obviously extremely expensive. Like the one that one probably costs around $130 or something like that. Like I'm not eating that on the average weekday. We're doing much simpler cuts. That's what I'm doing more on the weekends or when I have the team or friends over or whatever else it might be. Also, you don't need to, Wagyu is it's so marbled and fatty. You really don't need to smoke it. It's just not necessary. I was just kind of showing for our first video, and we're going to do more of these. I wanted to show you just like the most premium kind of fun thing that I do. To smoke, I mean, the best thing to smoke, like, of course, is a brisket. And I've done 14 or 16 hour overnight briskets, which we'll get a recipe up on that. We're working on a little cookbook situation too. Stay tuned over there. But you can do simple cuts. The simplest thing, if you're just getting into grilling, more than anything else, and you just want something you cannot screw up, get a skirt steak, preferably an outside skirt steak. It's a little more tender than the inside. And a skirt steak is thin, but there's enough fat in there that you cannot burn it. And if you get your grill to like 400 and throw that thing on, get it to room temperature first, a little salt and pepper, you don't need more than that, and get that thing on there for literally 4 minutes aside and then let it sit for like 5 minutes, you will have a perfect, delicious steak. Skirt steak, which is, people think of ribeye and filet as like the primo, but skirt steak will just never fail you. It never will. Also a New York strip, which is a little bit cheaper than a ribeye. Ribeye is, most people that love steaks, if you go to a steakhouse, people usually get the ribeye. That's what a tomahawk is, just with the longer bone, obviously. But New York strip is a great cut of meat, and just test things out. Also a picanha, which is, I guess, a Brazilian cut. Is the picanha a Brazilian cut? Yeah. And you can sort of score the outside of the fat, and you get the salt and pepper in there and then let the fat drip over it during the smoking process. Just fantastic. Casa Fourier says, I wonder why China doesn't demand that we pay our debt to them as retaliation for raising the tariffs that affects their economy. There is a kind of conflict or contradiction I don't understand. Borrowing money and owing money our biggest threat. Can you please make sense of this? I've been saying for years that the problem that we have with China, putting aside the trade asymmetry that we're all seeing right now, is they own a ton of our debt. And if they were ever to call us in, guys, we'd like our cash now. Well, we can't pay it off because we're a debtor nation. That's what Trump is trying to solve right now, right? So they own our debt. And think about a mafia movie. You owe the guy money. How does the mafia get the money back? Well, the mafia's got guns. And if you had more guns than the mafia, then the mafia wouldn't be the mafia, right? They'd be a pretty shitty mafia if they lent out money and then they didn't have some sort of threat that they could put upon you to pay the money back. So I think slightly what's happened here is China has done this, but maybe they didn't fully think it through, or maybe there's something else going on. But it's like, if we still have the most weapons, if we've got the most nukes and the most powerful army and everything else, they kind of know they're never going to get paid back. So perhaps what they were doing was just going to endlessly screw us. They were keeping us afloat by lending us money, and then also endlessly screw us on trade deals to just get us hooked to all of their stuff. Oh, and also send in a certain amount of fentanyl at the same time. I don't know exactly what the answer to that is. It's something worth pondering. Talway says, I'm curious, how did David and the kids handle that you're such a celebrity? Have you noticed if it causes people to treat you differently when they know who you are? Well, fortunately, the kids are too young to ever notice that in any way. Sometimes people will be out and people say hi to me and they just think it's a friend or something. I don't even, it's 2.5. They're not really thinking about that kind of thing. I guess usually when I'm out, the thing is, when I'm out and about, people are nice and they're respectful. And I've virtually never, I think the only one time ever just being out and about in my private life that I have a negative experience, it was in LA at IKEA once, and a blue-haired fat guy was giving me the evil eye, but didn't even approach me. But that was like the worst one. If people are anywhere, airport, supermarket, whatever, are just nice and friendly and good and sometimes buy us drinks or something. So I'm very comfortable with fame. I don't even like the word fame, but whatever my level of any of this is, it's the right level. Like, I'm not mobbed where I go, but I get a little of the afterglow on some of that stuff. It's why when I toured with Jordan, I loved it. He would take the brunt of it and have to be with everyone all the time. Obviously I guess I'm a little bigger now or something since then, but like, I like a little bit of the thing. And as long as I'm doing good work and feeling fulfilled here, it's nice when people say nice things to you. If you're doing something good and you're proud of it and then people acknowledge that, it's great. So yeah, sometimes David will be like, if we're just sitting at the airport waiting and people are coming up to me and he wants to talk about something else, I guess it could become tiring, but it's a small price to pay, I would say, for the goodness of the other stuff. Heather says, do you think the FBI, aka Cash, will put Hillary, Obama, Fauci, Schiff, and Pelosi in prison? No, I don't think anyone's going to prison. I don't. And I've told you my general philosophy on this, which is that it's very dangerous once you go down that path, even if those people all did highly illegal things, and some of them definitely did. Once you start doing that, you end up in a banana republic situation where one side will jail one side, and then if the other side ever gets in, they'll be jailed too. And then basically you'll just have you won't have any real government. That's what banana republic is. You'll just have this thing that's kind of going, this endless grift, because no good people who would ever want to change things would ever want to get involved in government, because you'd be arrested at the end. It's why dictators, particularly in the Middle East, never give up power. Like, what did Hosni Mubarak in Egypt think was going to happen if he gave up power? Well, power started being taken away from him in the Arab Spring. Remember, Tahrir Square back in 2004 or so? Look what happened. He ended up, he pretended he was sick, and then he gets pulled out of power. Gaddafi loses power, gets a knife stuck up his ass. These are not great ways to end. So the problem is that once you start arresting your opponents, you let go of that power, something bad is going to come for you. So for all of the warts that our system has and everything else, it's a dangerous game. But that isn't to say that some of these people can't be stripped of clearance, which Trump has done. It's not to say some of them can't be stripped of security, that they shouldn't have certain privileges or access or things like that. I think that we absolutely can do and are doing. Glenn says, do you ever watch movies or shows on TV with a biblical theme or message like the 10 Commandments or any of the several movies about Jesus? My wife and I have been currently watching and enjoying shows like The Chosen and House of David. So Chosen and House of David are both on my list. We're in the midst right now of our third and probably last for a couple year go around with The Sopranos, which I still think is the best television show ever. We're on season 5, episode 3 right now. It's so rich. There's so much there between business and power and family and relationships, and the dialogue just crackles, and it's heartfelt and funny and deep and painful. It's just perfect. As for the 10 Commandments, like Charlton Heston 10 Commandments, I used to, for my first probably 25 years of life, I think we watched that every year right before Passover. I think they put it on ABC. And, it's like a 3.5 hour. How long is the original Charlton Heston 10 Commandments? It's got to be like a 3.5 hour movie, which then they would show on ABC with commercial breaks. It was probably like a 4-hour operation. If I'm not mistaken, I think they did it over 2 nights, at least a long time ago. And we watched that as a family every year before Passover or Easter. I've tried to watch it. I try to watch it once a year, and I will try to watch it this year as well. I mean, it's the ultimate story of freedom, right? It's from bondage to slavery. It's a wonderful story. How long? 3 hours and 40 minutes, almost nailed it. Like it is long, but it's just wonderful. And it's old Hollywood and the acting and the costumes. And it's obviously before CGI and everything else. But yes, I've heard House of David is great. I've heard The Chosen is great. And stay tuned. Maybe that'll be next on the docket. Guys, let's talk about Lumen for a minute and then more questions. If you've been lifting, hitting your cardio, tracking macros, and still not seeing the fat loss or muscle gains you expected, listen up. I've been there. And the missing piece for me, metabolic flexibility, which is how easily your body switches between burning carbs and fat for fuel. That's where Lumen comes in. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Just one breath in the morning tells you whether you're burning fat or carbs, and from there it gives you daily personalized nutrition and lifestyle guidance based on your actual metabolism. This isn't another one-size-fits-all plan. It's real-time feedback that helps you optimize everything. So if you're serious about getting leaner, stronger, and healthier, go to lumen.me/Rubin or click the link below to get 15% off your Lumen. Trust me, once you try it, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. Jumpin' Jeff says, is Ilhan ignorant of the public's perception that she runs her district like a fiefdom? I don't know. You know, the thing is with these Democrats is, do they believe their bullshit? Do they see the destruction they've wrought? Do they care? Does she love America? I think the answer is no. I don't think she cares what the outside world thinks of what she's doing, because basically she's stuck around and amassed power. It is going to burst into the mainstream at some point that she married her brother for his immigration status. You're not allowed to do that, but you're also not allowed to bang a Chinese spy, and Eric Swalwell did that. So until some of these things get unearthed in a mainstream way, then we're just going to end up still having a bunch of terrible, terrible, terrible people in Congress. Joe says, is Boba Fett overrated? That is a good question, Joe. And the reason it's a good question is because if you said to people years ago, who's your favorite Star Wars character? Everyone that was kind of edgy would be like Boba Fett. And if you go back and watch the original movies, well, Boba Fett is not in Star Wars A New Hope. He's not in the original. He's only even in, which is the one he debuted in, he's in Empire Strikes Back. He probably is only in it for maybe 8 minutes, and he has like 3 lines basically, but he's this badass guy and he stands in the back with the gun, and you know, he's got this voice and you're kind of like, what is he? Is he a robot? Is he a mutant under there? Like, what's going on there? You know, obviously the carbonite thing is cool, and he's got his ship that's kind of cool and all of the stuff. And then, you know, he's in the beginning, only the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and he gets eaten by the pit of Sarlacc. But people just thought there was something about him because you didn't know too much about him, that he was like the coolest. Then Disney did then you get the story of him and the fact that he is the host, the original host of all of the clone soldiers. That's what you find out that they're doing in the original prequels. That's actually super cool. And then you meet the original. You know, they think of him as his father, but he's just a clone of him. He's technically not his son. And that's Jango Fett. And then he gets beheaded by Mace Windu. Phoenix, how much further do you want me to go with the Star Wars story here? Much further? Keep going. Yeah, more. And then, of course, Disney came out with the Book of Boba Fett, which was just kind of a knockoff of The Mandalorian, and it kind of sucked. And then they sort of realized it sucked halfway. So then they basically kind of wrote Boba Fett out and then brought The Mandalorian into that. I don't know. The whole Star Wars thing has just been so dismantled and destroyed, and the lore has been crushed and everything else, that I think about it a lot. It's like when I show my kids Star Wars, how am I going to explain to them what happened here? So we can do the originals, we can do the prequels. Do I even want them to see the last 3 that were trash, even though The Force Awakens wasn't trash? It only became trash because the subsequent 2 were so terrible. And then there's all the Disney stuff and my general feelings about Disney. And it's tough. It's tough, man. It's really tough. CP1951 says, there doesn't seem to be a very diverse crowd at your Oxford Union speech. For those of you that have not seen it, yes, I debated at Oxford Union, and we won our debate. The topic of the debate was, should cancel culture be canceled? I think I gave an excellent speech, and if you haven't seen it, it is up on platforms right now. It was interesting being there because, well, I guess this is slightly related to the previous conversation. There aren't that many white kids, at least that I saw at Oxford. I don't mean that in a racist way towards anyone. There were an awful lot of Pakistani Muslims there. That's just reality. The girl who was sitting behind me on stage, we sat at dinner, and she was telling me how her family, who are from Pakistan, that they vote based on freeing Palestine. They live in Britain and they're Pakistani Muslim immigrants. Like, that's something that these countries are going to have to grapple with. And where are the old school British kids going to school. It's the optics of it were weird. I am proud to say that we won the debate. So despite whatever the optics might look like, at least there was some, at least somewhat tepid defense of free speech. But it did feel like it was getting a little dicey. Terry says, is there any way to find out who donated money to Austin Metcalf's Killers Fund? It would be interesting to know if any celebrities, media, athletes, actors, politicians donated. So apparently there still is a give, send, go for this kid. His name is Carmelo Anthony. This is the kid who stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart and killed him. He was sitting in the wrong spot. Austin went up to him, tapped him, told him to go elsewhere. The kid just killed him. Some of the reaction I've seen to this thing online, people basically being like, we're not going to sit in the back of the bus and don't tell people where to go or anything, as if that's a justification for murdering somebody is insane. Anyway, the give, send, go, the goal of it is $350K. I thought at one point it had been taken down, but apparently they've raised $280K now, and it's still up. Like, I just don't know how muddled you would have to be to want to donate money to somebody who killed someone in cold blood for asking them to get up. Even if Austin Metcalf, and I've not heard one indication of this whatsoever, even if he was being a dick, even if he said a horrible word or something racist or anything else, you can't just murder somebody. So the idea that this thing has raised $280,000 in his defense already it's kind of gross, but I would say it's connected to what we're seeing culturally in the country right now. And that's what happens if you believe in identity politics. If you believe that someone is innocent based on the color of their skin and someone is guilty based on the color of their skin, what do you think is going to happen? Hey says, Dave, what do you think about blocking all Chinese investment in U.S. land? I'm 100% for that. You know, we've done that in Florida already. I don't know what they're doing about land that was already bought by the Chinese. And it looks like Trump is looking into that. You know, we're finding out all of these stories that they have an awful lot of farmland, and sometimes it's near military bases and other areas of sensitivity. Pause. Let's just pause. You know, the tariffs, we're reordering the economic situation. We're fixing the borders. Like, we're in this moment, whether you call it the transition or the shift, as I've been saying, like, we've got to think about a lot of these things seriously. Who is in our country? How did they get here? What are their beliefs are? Why are they buying land? Like, what is going on? Shelley says, with Passover beginning Saturday night, April 12th, will your family be having a Seder? Yes. For years and years and years and years and years, we always did it at my aunts and uncles one night at one aunt, another night at another aunt in Jersey. With the kids this year, we're not going to make it up there, but fortunately my sister does live here in Miami area. So we will be at my sister's, and she's got 3 kids, and we'll take our 2 kids, and we will tell the story of the Hebrews' journey from Egypt. And guess where they went? It's a place that some of these people don't like. It's called Israel. And it's the story of 40 years in the desert. And it's the story of parting the sea. And you know what sea it is? Because they don't, because from the river to the sea, and they don't even, well, you got the whole idea. So yes, we will do that. We will eat some matzah. We will tell the story and all that good stuff. All right, no post-game show because I'm being injected with stem cells right now. We are back tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.